The void was a canvas of impossible darkness, saved for the fleeting, agonizing glimmers. Asteroid shards, once the vibrant core of a flourishing moon, drifted in silent testimony to a catastrophe that had not been natural. Amidst the debris, a vessel, scarred and weary, barely held together by desperate, shimmering energy fields, cried out. Its distress beacon was a whisper, too faint for any mainstream galactic network, a plea woven into an ancient, almost forgotten frequency. It was the call of the Lumina, a people so thoroughly cast out by the dominant civilizations that their very existence was considered an inconvenient myth, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones to young starfarers. They were called the Withered, the unfortunate, a species allegedly bringing slow decay to any world they touched. Their technology, beautiful and organic, was dismissed as primitive, dangerous magic. Their gentle nature was mocked as inherent weakness. And now they were fading, their numbers dwindling, pursued by shadows and abandoned by the stars themselves. The human long-range survey vessel Odyssey Explorer hummed through a sector of uncharted nebulae, a place where the galactic maps still showed vast, intriguing blanks. Captain Ava Rostova, a woman whose calm demeanor hid the fire of 1,000 unexplored suns, leaned over the holographic star chart on her bridge. Her crew was a carefully selected blend of curiosity and resilience. Dr. Aris Thorne, xenolinguist and cultural expert, a scholar with a penchant for the obscure, adjusted his spectacles, his fingers dancing over a deciphering console. Commander Ben Carter, head of security, a man forged in the challenging environments of extreme environment adaptive colonies, watched the readouts with a professional, quiet intensity. "Captain," Aris announced, his voice a low thrum of surprise, "I'm picking up something unusual. Very unusual. It's an encoded signal, almost certainly pre-compact era, broadcasting on a frequency we typically reserve for deep space historical analysis." Ava turned, her interest piqued. "Pre-compact? That's ancient history, Aris. Who would be using something like that out here?" "My thoughts exactly," Aris replied, eyes fixed on the rapidly scrolling data. "The encryption is organic. It's not binary. It feels almost alive. Give me a moment." Minutes stretched into an eternity as the Odyssey Explorer's bridge fell silent, save for the soft beeps and chirps of the ship systems. Then, a gasp from Aris. "I have it! It's a distress call, Captain, from the Lumina." A ripple went through the bridge. The Lumina. Every human knew the galactic fables. They were the pariahs, the cursed. The consensus of the stellar hegemony and the conglomerate of Zenith was clear. Avoid the Lumina, for their presence brought decay and ruin. They were the species that systems allegedly withered after their passage, planets slowly losing their vibrancy, becoming desolate husks. It was a terrifying tale used to justify their complete isolation and persecution. "The Lumina," Commander Carter's voice was grim. "Captain, Galactic Protocol is explicit. No contact. Their very touch is considered detrimental." Ava's gaze drifted to the main view screen, where the nebulae swirled in majestic indifference. Protocol also dictated humanity remain on our home star system for another century before venturing out. Yet here we are. What's the message, Aris? Aris cleared his throat, the weight of the words evident in his posture. "It's a plea, Captain. Desperate. They claim they are being hunted, systematically eliminated. Their homeworld, they say, was not withered by their presence, but by a catastrophic cleansing orchestrated by the very powers that now demonize them. They say their numbers are perilously low, and that they sought out humanity specifically because we are unburdened by ancient prejudices, unbound by the established order. They believe we possess a unique tenacity, a spirit that refuses to be constrained by manufactured truths." "Tenacity or naivety," Carter muttered, but his eyes, too, were drawn to the coordinates Aris had displayed. A system marked unsurveyed hazardous zone on galactic charts, a place the stellar hegemony had specifically designated as off-limits. Ava made her decision. Her face was calm, resolute. Set a course, helmsman, maximum velocity, shields to full defensive posture. Commander Carter, prepare for possible hostile contact. Eris, try to establish a two-way channel, but proceed with extreme caution. Captain, with all due respect, Carter began, this is a direct violation of every interstellar accord regarding contact with pariah species. We could invite sanctions, even military action. And if their story is true, Commander, Ava countered, her voice low but firm. If an entire species is facing extinction because of manufactured lies, what kind of species would we be if we looked away? The Odyssey explorer surged forward, slicing through the cosmic dust, a tiny beacon of defiance against a galaxy-spanning consensus. Hours later, they emerged into a system that looked like a cosmic graveyard. Dead, lightless stars flickered in the distance, and the asteroid field that had once been a moon was now a testament to violent dissolution. Sensors picking up their vessel, Captain, reported Lieutenant Yi Kim, the ship's chief sensor operator. Life signs faint, very faint. Hull integrity critically compromised. They won't last much longer. On the main view screen, the Lumina vessel resolved into a heartbreaking image. It was graceful, even in its ruin, its organic lines and bioluminescent panels now fractured and dim. It looked like a dying creature, bleeding light into the void. They're hailing us, Kim added. Visual channel open, Captain. The screen flickered, revealing the Lumina Elder, Elara. Her form was ethereal, slender, and almost translucent, her skin shimmering with soft, internal light. Her eyes, large and dark, held an ancient sorrow, but also a fragile flicker of hope. She was breathtakingly delicate, yet projected an aura of profound weariness. Human vessel Odyssey explorer. Elara's voice was soft, melodic, but threaded with unmistakable exhaustion. I am Elara, last speaker for the Lumina. We are grateful you answered our plea. We are at the end of our journey. Speaker Elara, Ava replied, her voice gentle, we are here. What can humanity do to aid you? Elara's luminous head tilted. You ask without judgment. This is what we hoped. We need sanctuary, a chance to tell our truth. The stellar hegemony, the conglomerate of Zenith, they hunt us, Captain. They claim we bring ruin. They tell lies. What lies, speaker? Eris Thorne interjected, his scholar's curiosity overriding his usual diplomatic reserve. Elara's inner light dimmed slightly, as if recalling immense pain. They claim our presence causes worlds to wither. This is a deliberate inversion. Our very biology, it draws energy, yes, but it also returns it, transmuted, revitalized. We are cultivators, not destroyers. We draw on the life force of a world to sustain ourselves, but in doing so, we enrich its ecosystems, accelerate its growth, guide it to unprecedented flourishing. Our touch transforms barren lands into verdant paradises, dying stars into nurturing suns. A murmur of disbelief went through the human bridge crew. It flew in the face of everything the galactic powers had disseminated for centuries. Our technology, our way of life, is based on symbiotic growth, Elara continued, her voice gaining a touch of weary defiance. It is gentle, subtle, and incredibly potent, too potent, perhaps, for those who profit from scarcity and control. 50 cycles ago, we were a vibrant people, sharing our gifts with nascent civilizations. Then, the stellar hegemony, with the support of the conglomerate, began their campaign of disinformation. They twisted our symbiotic relationship with ecosystems, claiming we drained worlds. They launched cleansing operations, devastating our colonies, our home system, to eliminate us and, we believe, to suppress our methods. They feared what a galaxy of abundant, freely shared resources would do to their established power structures. So they hunted you to near extinction, Ava stated, her voice flat, the implications chilling. Just to maintain their market dominance and control. Precisely, Elara confirmed. Our numbers are now a mere fraction of what they once were. This vessel holds the last remnants of our knowledge, our culture, our hope. We have nowhere left to go. We reached out to humanity because you are new. You are unaligned. You have a history of fighting for what is right, even when the odds are against you. You are the last chance for the Lumina to survive and to clear our name. Commander Carter's expression was a mixture of skepticism and dawning horror. An entire galactic conspiracy to cover up technology theft and eliminate a species? They did not just eliminate us, Elara corrected, her eyes fixed on Ava. They warped our very nature in the minds of the galaxy. They made us the monsters, so no one would ever listen to our truth. Suddenly, the Odyssey Explorer's alarms blared. Captain, multiple energy signatures. Lieutenant Kim's voice was sharp with urgency. Coming in fast. Identified. 2 stellar hegemony dreadnoughts, 4 conglomerate cruisers. They're entering weapons range. No hails. They're not even demanding our surrender. On the main view screen, the dark forms of massive warships emerged from the void, their weapons conduits glowing with cold, anticipatory light. They had tracked the Odyssey Explorer. They had known. They were here not to parley, but to ensure that the Lumina and anyone associated with them were silenced forever. The Odyssey Explorer, a scientific vessel, was no match for such overwhelming force. Ava's jaw tightened. This was it. The galaxy's established powers were not just warning them, they were acting. They were making it abundantly clear that daring to question their narrative, daring to offer shelter to the cursed, would have immediate and severe consequences. The very act of extending a hand to the Lumina was an act of defiance against the entire galactic order. "Shields to maximum, all power to engines," Ava commanded, her voice betraying no fear. Commander Carter prepared defensive maneuvers. Aris, log every detail of this encounter. We are not turning back. Elara's image on the screen watched the approaching armada, her large eyes filled with a familiar sorrow. "They will not let us speak our truth, Captain. They never will." Ava looked at the Lumina speaker, then back at the formidable alien fleet closing in. "Then we'll speak it for you. Humanity doesn't back down from a fight, especially when justice is on the line." The words were defiant, perhaps even reckless, given their current predicament. But they rang with an undeniable truth that resonated deep within every human on the bridge. The Odyssey Explorer, alone against overwhelming power, stood firm. Its single, fragile Lumina guessed the catalyst for an unfolding galactic confrontation. The lines had been drawn not by words, but by the silent, approaching menace of the dominant powers. Humanity, the perceived newcomer, the naive idealist, was about to find out just how outcast they themselves would become, simply for daring to safeguard the helpless. What do you think of humanity's bold choice? Will the Odyssey Explorer survive this unexpected confrontation? Let us know your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more epic HFY stories. Where in the galaxy are you watching from? The void ripped, not with the thunder of a conventional jump, but with the searing light of plasma bolts tearing through the space where the Odyssey Explorer had just been. On the main view screen, the dark forms of the stellar hegemony dreadnoughts and conglomerate cruisers shimmered, their weapon conduits flaring with renewed, icy malevolence. They had anticipated the human vessel's evasive maneuver. Their aim was precise, their intent absolutely. Impact, shields holding at 70%. Lieutenant Kim's voice was strained, but steady, as the Odyssey Explorer shuddered violently under the assault. The ship's interior lights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows across the bridge. Commander Carter, braced at his station, his knuckles white, watched the tactical display. "They're targeting our engines. Captain, minimal evasive potential against that kind of mass and speed." Ava Rostova gripped the armrests of her command chair, her eyes scanning the readouts. The Odyssey Explorer was a survey vessel built for exploration and scientific inquiry, not for open warfare against capital ships. Its shields were good, its hull robust for navigating anomalies, but it was not designed to withstand a focused volley from a dreadnought. Every creak of the bulkheads, every groan of the ship's framework, echoed the impossible odds. "Return fire," Kim asked, a note of desperation in his voice. "Negative," Ava replied, with her voice a low, steady current in the storm. "Our energy weapon output is negligible against their primary shields. Focus all power to the forward deflectors and engines. Ben, what are our options for disengagement?" "Limited, Captain," Carter responded, his gaze flickering between the approaching enemy and the faint signature of the Lumina vessel still drifting in the debris field, its energy signature perilously low. "We can't outrun them, and we certainly can't outfight them. Our best bet is a blind jump into the nebula, but the navigational hazards are extreme, and we risk breaking apart. And even then, we'd have to take the Lumina vessel with us." "We are not leaving them," Ava stated, her eyes locking onto Alara's image on the secondary screen. The Lumina speaker watched the unfolding battle with an ancient sorrow, her ethereal form flickering like a dying ember. "Eris, any word on their internal status? Can they sustain an FTL transfer?" "Their core structural integrity is failing, Captain," Dr. Aris Thorne replied, his voice uncharacteristically grim. "The energy fields are the only thing holding them together. An FTL transition would likely dismember them. They need external containment, something robust, if they're to survive the stresses." Another volley slammed into the Odyssey Explorer. Warning klaxons blared and smoke began to curl from several consoles. "Shields at 40%, Kim cried out. "Hull breach detected, Deck 7, containment field engaged." "We can't hold them," Carter said, his voice taut. "We're a target sitting here. If we attempt a rescue, we expose ourselves further. If we don't, they're gone." Ava's mind raced. The Odyssey Explorer was a scientific vessel, but humanity had always prided itself on ingenuity, on finding solutions where none seemed to exist. "Tony!" she barked into the comm. Chief Engineer Tony Sharma, a pragmatist who could coax miracles from dying systems, responded instantly. "Status report, engineering. Can we get their vessel into our primary cargo bay? Can we reinforce it for transit?" "Captain, their vessel is almost half the size of our bay. It's designed for transport, not a secure hangar." Tony's voice was incredulous but already tinged with the familiar challenge. "And reinforcement for FTL, that's a lot of improvisation. It would take hours, maybe days of fabrication." "Hours we don't have," Ava murmured, watching the hegemony dreadnoughts shift their formation, tightening the nose. "Their next volley would be the one that broke them." Ilara's voice, soft but clear, cut through the comms. "Captain Rostova, we understand. Do not sacrifice your vessel, your people, for us. Our journey was nearing its conclusion regardless. You have shown us kindness. That is enough." "No," Ava said, her voice firm. "It is not enough. Not when the truth is at stake. Humanity does not abandon those who seek justice." Suddenly, Aris Thorne gasped. He was staring at a new readout, a complex biosignature analysis of the Lumina vessel. "Captain, their energy signature, it's fluctuating wildly. It's reacting to the incoming energy from the hegemony weapons." On the main view screen, the Lumina vessel, still drifting listlessly, began to pulse with an internal, soft, emerald light. It wasn't a weapon charge. It was a gentle, undulating glow, almost like a massive heart beating. "What is it doing?" Carter demanded, his hand hovering over a console weapon activation. "It's not aggressive, Commander," Aris said, his voice a mix of awe and bewilderment. "It's transforming. Absorbing the ambient energy the weapon impacts and converting it. Look at the spectral analysis." As Aris spoke, the lead hegemony dreadnought fired another massive plasma volley. The bolts, shimmering with destructive power, streaked towards the Odyssey Explorer. But before they reached their target, they passed through a faint, invisible field emanating from the Lumina vessel. A strange thing happened. The plasma bolts, instead of impacting with their usual concussive force, seemed to ripple, their vibrant blue energy dissipating, transmuted. They didn't explode or deflect. Instead, they transformed into swirling, luminous green particles that danced harmlessly off the Odyssey explorers' shields. It was as if the very nature of the energy had been fundamentally altered. "What in the void was that?" Lieutenant Kim exclaimed, his eyes wide. "The energy signature of their weapon fire, it just became inert, non-aggressive, like a massive energy sink, but not destructive." "That's it!" Eris cried, his face illuminated by the emerald glow on his screen. "Ilara's truth, our very biology, it draws energy, yes, but it also returns it, transmuted, revitalized. They aren't parasitic. They reclaim energy, not for aggression, but for growth. They turn destructive force into life energy." On the main view screen, a ripple of confusion spread through the alien fleet. Their weapons, designed for absolute annihilation, had just been harmlessly neutralized, their energy turned into a light show. It was a complete violation of every known principle of combat. "They're recalibrating their targeting systems," Kim reported, seeing the alien dreadnought's weapon ports flicker erratically. "Their energy weapon efficiency is plummeting. The Lumina field is converting their weapon outputs into ambient bioluminescence." Ava's mind clicked into overdrive. This wasn't a weapon. It was an involuntary, defensive biological response, a manifestation of the Lumina's true nature. They didn't fight destruction, they transformed it. This was the withering the galaxy feared. The subtle, profound alteration of energy and matter, twisted into a lie. "Ben, new plan," Ava commanded, her voice firm. "Tony, can you modify one of our long-range survey drones to dock with the Lumina vessel? We need to get them moving and fast." "A survey drone, Captain?" Tony's voice crackled with disbelief. "They're not designed for towing, and the Lumina vessel is practically disintegrating." "Use the strongest flexible tethers we have," Ava pressed. "Bypass safety protocols. We don't have time for a full transfer. We just need to pull them along for a jump." "Eris, can you analyze the field's radius? How much protection is it providing?" "The field is expanding, Captain," Eris yelled, now fully animated. "It's a natural process, radiating outward from the Lumina vessel. It's not a conscious action, it's like a bloom. Every shot they fire, every bit of destructive energy feeds it, expands it, converts it. Their entire biology is a massive, living, energy-transmuting ecosystem." The alien fleet, bewildered by the unexpected turn of events, unleashed another barrage. This time, as the plasma bolts entered the expanding green field, they were not just neutralized, but also seemed to accelerate the Lumina's transformation. The field pulsed brighter, emerald tendrils of light reaching out, and the very debris of the shattered moon began to shimmer with nascent life, tiny sprouts appearing on jagged rock surfaces. "Captain, the conglomerate cruisers are breaking formation," Kim reported. "They're retreating. They're not equipped for this kind of passive negation. They're programmed for direct energy exchange. This is outside their combat doctrine." But the hegemony dreadnoughts, larger and more tenacious, held their ground. "The hegemony is adapting," Carter warned. "They're switching to kinetic weapons, standard torpedoes, and mass drivers. The Lumina field might convert energy, but what about solid objects?" "We don't want to find out," Ava said grimly. "Tony, drone status?" "Drone connected, Captain. 2 cables engaged." Tony's voice crackled with effort. "But the stress on the drone's frame is critical. It won't hold for long." "That's all the time we need," Ava declared. "Helmsman, plot an emergency jump into the nebula's densest point. Blind jump, max velocity on my mark." "Captain, that's suicide," the helmsman protested. "We don't have proper scans. We could impact a rogue asteroid or get tangled in a gravitational anomaly." "If we stay, we perish," Ava countered, her gaze unwavering. "We ride the Lumina's protective bloom as far as we can get it to take us." Ben, prepare to fire all remaining defensive flares and chaff. Draw their fire. We need every fraction of a second. The Odyssey Explorer lurched forward, tugging the fragile Lumina vessel behind it, propelled by the struggling survey drone. As the human ship gathered speed, the green, life-giving field around the Lumina vessel rippled and expanded, washing over the receding debris field, making the dead rocks glow with an eerie, verdant light. The Hegemony dreadnoughts, recovering from their initial shock, opened fire with their kinetic weapons, massive slugs designed to punch through any shield. Impact, critical hull breach deck 4, Kim yelled. Shields failing. The Odyssey Explorer groaned like a dying beast, but Ava held firm. Mark, she yelled, jump. The stars outside the viewscreen stretched into impossible lines of light as the Odyssey Explorer leaped into faster-than-light travel, dragging the Lumina vessel and its burgeoning field of life energy behind it. The impact of the kinetic rounds was momentarily muted, then faded into the silence of warp. When they emerged moments later, it was into a swirling, incandescent fog. The nebula swallowed them, its gas clouds thick enough to blind sensors and dampen communications. They had escaped, for now. Status report, Ava demanded, her voice hoarse. Hull integrity 20%, Captain, Tony reported, sounding exhausted. Life support on auxiliary. Propulsion damaged but functional. The Lumina vessel, it's still connected. But that field, it's still expanding, even in here. It's reacting to the nebula's gas and dust. It's converting it, making it shimmer. On the main screen, the nebula outside was indeed transforming. Where it had been a diffuse, opaque cloud, pockets of vibrant, pulsating colors now appeared, swirling like galaxies within galaxies. The Lumina's passive energy conversion, their very biological essence, was turning the cosmic gas into a breathtaking, living canvas. Ilara's voice, now stronger, came through the comms. Captain Rostova, you are exceptional. The Hegemony and the conglomerate will be enraged. They consider this system their hunting ground, the source of their most valuable resource. Resource? Aris Thorne asked, pushing his spectacles up his nose, his voice edged with a new, dawning comprehension. You mean this dead moon, this hazardous zone? What was it here, Speaker Ilara? The Lumina speaker's inner light flickered, casting long, ethereal shadows across her delicate features. This system, it was not always dead. It was once a world of immense biological vitality, a nexus world, and within its core lay the most potent wellspring of life energy in this quadrant. A wellspring the Hegemony and conglomerate sought to control. They used our teachings, twisted them, claimed we withered the nexus world when in fact, they themselves drained it of its life force, weaponizing it, commodifying it. And the truth of that wellspring, it is now contained within the remnant of our homeworld. A truth they will sacrifice everything to keep buried. Ava looked at the shimmering nebula, then back at the battered but defiant ship, and finally at Ilara, whose fragile form now held the weight of a galaxy-spanning secret. They had saved the Lumina, but in doing so, they had stumbled upon a truth that threatened the very foundations of galactic power. The Odyssey Explorer was no longer just a scientific vessel. It was a beacon, carrying the last hope of a persecuted species and a truth that could unravel the established order. The chase had just begun, and the galaxy's most powerful entities would stop at nothing to prevent humanity from unearthing the conspiracy. What do you think Captain Rostova should do next? Where do you think the Lumina's wellspring of life energy is truly hidden? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this thrilling HFY adventure, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single beat of the Odyssey Explorer's journey into the heart of galactic intrigue. The Odyssey Explorer was not simply flying through the nebula, it was struggling, like a wounded creature caught in a cosmic current. The shimmering, multi-hued gas clouds that enveloped them were not just beautiful, they were treacherous. gravimetric anomalies, unseen pockets of condensed matter, and bursts of high-energy radiation flickered across Lieutenant Kim's damaged sensor display. His console sparked, a plume of acrid smoke briefly obscuring his face before the emergency vents pulled it away. "Blind jump confirmed, Captain," Kim reported, his voice raspy. "But our long-range scanners are completely offline. Short-range arrays are struggling to penetrate this density. We're flying blind, essentially." Ava Rostova leaned forward, bracing herself against a sudden lurch as the ship's damaged propulsion system fought against an invisible current. "Tony, propulsion status? Can we get more stability?" From engineering, Chief Engineer Tony Sharma's voice crackled through the comms, heavy with fatigue. "Working on it, Captain. Auxiliary thrusters are firing erratically. The jumps stress the energy conduits to their limit. We're rerouting power, but it's like trying to patch a sieve. And that Lumina vessel, it's pulling on us. That field of theirs is interacting with the nebula's ambient energy in surprising ways. It's a miracle that the survey drone hasn't disintegrated." On the main view screen, the Lumina vessel, still tethered precariously, pulsed with its emerald light, its biological field radiating outwards. The nebula around it shimmered with enhanced, unnatural brilliance, swirling colors of green, violet, and gold. It was captivating, but also unsettling. "Eris," Ava said, turning to Dr. Thorne, who was hunched over his console, his brow furrowed in concentration. "More on this wellspring Alara mentioned. If it's in their vessel, what is it doing now?" Eris adjusted his spectacles, his eyes wide with a mix of scientific fascination and profound concern. "Captain, the energy readings from the Lumina vessel are off the charts. The wellspring isn't just a metaphor. It's a core biological nexus, a living heart, capable of drawing in raw energy and processing it. The attacks from the hegemony, the very act of their engines operating, even the ambient radiation of this nebula, it's all being absorbed. And the Lumina, they're not just transmuting it, they're growing it. That's why the field is expanding. It's an involuntary response, a self-sustaining cycle of energy transformation and proliferation. So every time they shot at us, they were actually feeding the Lumina's power," Commander Carter mused, a flicker of grim amusement crossing his face. "No wonder the conglomerate broke ranks. Their weapons were literally nurturing their enemy." "Precisely, Commander," Eris confirmed. "But the stress on the Lumina vessel is immense. Its structural integrity is already failing. This proliferation of energy, while defensive, is also consuming it from within. It's like a supernova contained within a glass bottle. Without external support, without a way to offload or channel that energy, the vessel and the Lumina will eventually tear themselves apart from the sheer volume of transmuted power." Alara's voice, though still soft, carried a new note of urgency. "Captain Rostova, the energy within us, it is reaching critical mass. Our vessel, it can no longer contain it. We are not designed to hold such immense power without a living world to root into, to share it with. We will perish." Ava's jaw tightened. They had escaped one peril only to find themselves facing another, even more insidious one. The very gift that had saved them was now their most immediate threat. "Tony, any way to vent that energy, to stabilize their core?" "Venting it would be like trying to bottle a star, Captain," Tony replied, his voice strained. "And stabilizing their core, that sounds like advanced bioengineering, not mechanical repair. We don't have the tools or the knowledge for that. We're barely keeping our ship from becoming debris." The Odyssey Explorer launched again, this time with a sickening crack. "Hull plating compromised, cargo bay 2, Kim shouted. "Rapid decompression, sealing sections." "Captain," Alara's voice suddenly sharpened. "The influx of energy, it is causing localized environmental collapse within our vessel. Our life support cannot compensate for the rapid proliferation of biomass. Our young, they are suffering." Ava felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. The Lumina's biological processes, so miraculous in their healing, were now threatening to overwhelm them. Their defense was becoming their doom. And if the Lumina vessel destabilized completely, the resulting energy discharge could very well atomize the Odyssey Explorer along with it. Eris, any way to communicate with the Lumina's biological systems? 2. Tell them to slow down or to channel it, Ava asked, a desperate hope in her voice. Eris shook his head grimly. It's an involuntary response, Captain, a survival mechanism. Their biology is reacting to threat. It's not something they can consciously control, at least not at this scale. They are the conduits, not the controllers of this immense energy. Commander Carter, ever pragmatic, offered a grim assessment. If we can't stabilize them and we can't outrun the hegemony, then we're stuck between a rock and a super-energetic hard place, Captain. We need to find a way out of this nebula fast, even if it's a risky jump. A risky jump into what, Ben? Ava retorted, gesturing to Kim's sputtering sensor array. We don't know where we are, where the hegemony is, or what other anomalies are in this nebula. We could jump directly into a star or worse, into their ambush. For a long moment, the bridge was filled with the groans of the damaged ship and the frantic beeps of warning systems. Ava closed her eyes, picturing the vast, swirling beauty of the nebula, now a cage. The Lumina, gentle healers, caught in a rapid downfall of their own making. Humanity facing impossible odds for a species deemed worthless by the galactic elite. There had to be a way. There always was. Tony, Ava said, her eyes snapping open, a spark of an idea igniting. That field the Lumina vessel is generating, how is it interacting with our energy systems? Tony paused. Well, it's odd. It's almost like trying to feed our systems, but it's too raw, too volatile. It's like trying to power a flashlight with a lightning bolt. We can't take it directly. But it is energy, Ava pressed. Uncontrolled, yes, but pure. What if we don't try to use it directly for propulsion or shields? What if we channel it, not into our systems, but through them? Could we use it to power a massive directional pulse, something non-destructive? Tony's voice was cautious. A pure energy pulse. That would take a significant portion of our power core to focus, and even then, we don't have a projector designed for that. We're not a communications beacon, Captain. We have a long-range survey dish, Ava countered, looking at Lieutenant Kim. And the gravimetric manipulators. Could we focus that raw Lumina energy, even for a moment, into a coherent, non-damaging signal? A beacon, a truth beam? Kim's eyes widened. Captain, if we could tap into that much pure energy and focus it, we could broadcast a signal that would cut through this nebula, through any interference. But it would be incredibly dangerous. One wrong fluctuation, and our entire communication array would melt. We're already melting, Lieutenant, Ava said grimly. We need to get a message out, not just to Earth Command, but to anyone listening. The truth about the Lumina and the Nexus world. If we're going to fall, we're going to do it with the truth screaming across the galaxy. Eris Thorne, listening intently, suddenly interjected. Captain, the Lumina themselves, their bioluminescent bodies, their natural glow is a manifestation of this very energy. What if we use them as the conduit, not their dying ship, but their living essence? Elara, on the secondary screen, had been listening with a renewed flicker of hope. We are the channels, yes. Our essence is the filter, the transmuter. We can amplify, but we cannot sustain it. Not without a world or a vessel that understands our connection to life. A vessel that understands, Ava repeated, her gaze sweeping across her bridge crew, their faces etched with exhaustion but also grim determination. Eris, if we can build a temporary, organic conduit on board the Odyssey Explorer, something that mimics a natural life cycle, could the Lumina channel their energy through it safely? Not just their raw output, but their truth. Eris's mind was already racing. It's insane, Captain, but theoretically, yes. If we could construct a contained, symbiotic environment, we'd need a large bioscience lab, a greenhouse module, something that can absorb and transmute energy like a biological capacitor. We have the hydroponics bay on Deck 5. That's our food supply, Carter protested. "We can't risk it." "We're risking everything else, Ben," Ava said, her eyes fixed on Eris. "Can you oversee it with Alara's guidance?" "It will be unprecedented, Captain," Eris said, a strange light in his eyes. "But if we succeed, it could be the most powerful broadcast in galactic history." A living message, untainted by technology, carried on pure, transmuted energy. Tony Sharma, despite his earlier protests, was already thinking furiously. "Captain, if we reconfigure the primary power conduits from the dying Lumina vessel directly into the hydroponics bay, bypassing our main systems, and then connect the bay's output to the main comms array, we could create a momentary surge. But it's a one-shot deal. It would likely burn out the hydroponics bay and fry our comms. And it would need to happen before the Lumina vessel perishes." "We make it count," Ava said. "Ben, secure the entire hydroponics bay. Eris, take Alara and her team there. Get to work. Tony, reroute those conduits. Kim, keep us from hitting anything large enough to finish us." As the crew scrambled, the hegemony dreadnoughts and conglomerate cruisers, having recalibrated their systems, began to penetrate the nebula. Their sensor pings, faint at first, grew steadily stronger. They were hunting slowly but surely. Hours blurred into a tense, frantic struggle. On Deck 5, the Odyssey Explorer's hydroponics bay, usually a tranquil space of growing plants, became a hive of activity. Eris, guided by Alara, worked with an almost manic intensity. The Lumina, their ethereal forms glowing brighter with their surging internal energy, were fragile, almost transparent, as they poured their essence into the makeshift bioconduit. They placed their delicate, glowing hands on the nutrient vats, their inner light flowing into the water, into the very soil. The plants, instead of withering, began to grow at an impossible rate, spiraling upwards, their leaves unfurling in vibrant, impossible colors. It was as if a miniature, accelerated ecosystem was blooming before their eyes, pulsating with captured, transmuted energy. "Captain," Eris's voice crackled, excitement and exhaustion warring within him. "It's working! The hydroponics bay is stabilizing the energy. The plants are acting as a biological buffer, absorbing the raw force and transmuting it into a pure, coherent signal. But the Lumina, they are becoming dangerously weak from the sustained channeling. They need this to end soon." On the bridge, Lieutenant Kim's face was grim. "Captain, enemy contact. They've entered our sector of the nebula. 2 hegemony dreadnoughts, 3 conglomerate cruisers. They're forming a blockade. They know where we are." On the main view screen, holographic projections of the enemy ships appeared, their dark outlines growing larger, their weapon ports glowing. They had found them. "Tony, how much longer until we can fire the truth beam?" Ava asked, her voice tight. "Almost there, Captain," Tony replied, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "But the stress on the main comms array it's going to overload. We'll get 1, maybe 2 pulses before it goes dark, and that Lumina vessel is looking rough. That survey drone is barely holding it together." "1 pulse is all we need," Ava declared. "Eris, Alara, are you ready to deliver your truth?" Alara's image appeared on the secondary screen, her form now almost painfully translucent, but her eyes, wide and luminous, held an unyielding resolve. "We are ready, Captain. Our song will finally be heard." "Ben, evasive maneuvers," Ava commanded. "Draw their fire, but keep us in position. Tony, full power to the comms array on my mark. Kim, prepare to broadcast on every known galactic frequency and then some. Make sure it goes out to public channels, not just secure military ones. We're going to bypass their censorship. We're going to scream the truth." The Odyssey Explorer shuddered as the first kinetic rounds slammed into its already weakened shields. Alarms blared continuously. Smoke filled the bridge. The lights dimmed, struggling to remain on. "Shields failing, Captain," Kim screamed over the din. "Hull breaches multiplying. They're going to rip us apart." Ava watched the approaching enemy fleet, their massive forms filling the view screen. They were not just here to stop them, they were here to make an example. To erase them from the galactic memory, just as they had tried to erase the Lumina. "Now," Ava roared. "Fire the truth beam, broadcast everything." A low hum vibrated through the Odyssey Explorer, a sound unlike any weapon, rising from the heart of the ship. From the main communications dish, not a laser, but a blinding, emerald pulse of pure, living light erupted, cutting through the nebula's dense clouds like a celestial sword. It was not destructive, but transformative, a beacon of raw, unfettered truth. The light carried with it the Lumina's song, their ancient story, their suffering, their gentle power, and the shocking truth of the Nexus world's desolation at the hands of the hegemony and conglomerate. It pulsed outwards, racing through the void, carrying a message that would ripple across every inhabited system, every listening post, every ship in the galaxy. The enemy fleet, caught off guard by the unexpected, non-weaponized burst of energy, hesitated. Their sensors flared, unable to comprehend the nature of the signal. The emerald light washed over their hulls, not harming them, but bathing them in an unnerving, verdant glow, as if the very air around them had come alive. It was a moment of profound, disorienting peace in the heart of a conflict zone. But the moment was fleeting. As the Odyssey Explorer's comms array strained and sparks flew, Commander Carter grimaced. "Captain, the hegemony dreadnoughts are resuming fire. They're focused on the Lumina vessel. They know that's the source. They're going for the ultimate elimination." On the view screen, the massive dreadnoughts pivoted, their heavy kinetic cannons locking onto the fragile Lumina vessel, still tethered to the Odyssey Explorer. They were not going to make the same mistake with energy weapons again. They intended to crush it, to eliminate the last physical manifestation of the Wellspring's truth. "Tony, how much time do we have before they impact the Lumina vessel?" Ava demanded, her voice tight with desperation. "Seconds, Captain, maybe 10, Tony yelled, his voice cracking with urgency. "The drone is collapsing. The tethers won't hold under a direct hit." Ava's eyes scanned the bridge, the damaged ship, the perishing Lumina vessel, and the inexorable approach of galactic power. 10 seconds. It wasn't enough time to move, to defend, to escape. But humanity had always been at its best when faced with the impossible. "Eris," Ava said, her voice quiet, firm, utterly resolute. "Can the Lumina, can they transfer the Wellspring, the essence of their homeworld, into our ship?" Eris Thorne stared, speechless. Then his eyes widened in understanding, a terrible, desperate plan dawning. "Captain, it would be an incredible risk. It could tear our ship apart or overwhelm our biology. It would require a complete symbiotic integration. But if the Lumina can transfer their core essence, their Wellspring, into a new, living and willing host..." Ilara's voice, faint but clear, came through the coins. "Captain Rostova, we can try. Our core, our truth for your survival. It would be the ultimate act of trust, but our vessel, it is almost gone. We must do it now." Ava looked at the encroaching dreadnoughts, then at the Lumina vessel, now shimmering on the brink of collapse. "Then let's show them what humanity is truly made of." The Odyssey Explorer was about to become something far more than just a ship. It was about to become a vessel of life, a living testament to a galaxy-shattering truth. And the price was unknowable. What do you think will happen when the Lumina transfer their core essence into the Odyssey Explorer? Will humanity truly become a living vessel for a celestial wellspring? Don't miss the epic conclusion of this HFY saga. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell to find out if humanity can carry the weight of a galaxy-shaking truth. And hey, did you know that the Lumina's organic technology is powered by the ultimate form of cosmic recycling? Pretty cool, right? The void seemed to hold its breath as the Odyssey Explorer shuddered, its battered frame groaning under the twin assaults of the nebula's unpredictable currents and the relentlessly approaching hegemony dreadnoughts. Lieutenant Kim's voice was a strained whisper. "Impact in 5 seconds, Captain. Direct hit on the Lumina vessel is unavoidable." On the secondary screen, Ilara's form flickered, painfully translucent, her large eyes fixed on Ava Rostova. "Captain, the time is now, our last hope." Ava's gaze swept across her bridge crew, their faces streaked with grime and exhaustion, but their eyes burning with an unyielding resolve. This was it. This was the moment humanity would either fall or ascend to a new understanding of its place in the cosmos. "Eris, Ilara, Tony!" Ava's voice cut through the chaos, clear and strong. "Commence the transfer now." In the Odyssey Explorer's hydroponics bay, a space usually filled with the gentle hum of nutrient recyclers and the whisper of growing plants, chaos reigned. Dr. Eris Thorne, his hands trembling with adrenaline and the sheer impossibility of his task, worked alongside Ilara and her remaining Lumina. The Lumina, their forms radiating a desperate emerald light, gently placed their ethereal hands on the central nutrient vat. Their internal light intensified, flowing into the water, into the soil, into the roots of the rapidly growing plants. "The energy influx is immense, Captain." Tony Sharma's voice roared over the comms from the bay, a mix of terror and awe. "Our bioconduits are at their limit. The plants are growing exponentially. I'm seeing entirely new species forming from the raw energy." On the bridge, the Odyssey Explorer began to groan anew, but this was different. It wasn't the sound of metal tearing, but of metal changing. A soft, emerald light began to emanate from the ship's very hull, visible even through the view screen, pulsing in rhythm with the Lumina vessel still tethered precariously behind them. "Gravimetric fluctuations, Captain," Kim yelled. "Off the charts, it's like the ship's mass is shifting. And the Lumina vessel's energy signature is spiking, then stabilizing, it's connecting, it's becoming one with us." Suddenly, a massive kinetic slug, fired from the lead hegemony dreadnought, streaked towards them, designed to obliterate the Lumina vessel and sever the human connection. It impacted, not with an explosion, but with a strange, resonant thrum. The Odyssey Explorer bucked violently, but instead of tearing through, the slug seemed to sink into the hull. The emerald light around the ship flared blindingly, and where the slug had struck, instead of a gaping wound, the hull expanded, shimmering. The metal began to flow, taking on an organic, almost crystalline sheen, absorbing the kinetic energy and transmuting it into structural reinforcement. The slug itself dissolved, its raw matter becoming part of the ship, growing new, bioluminescent patterns across the hull. "Impossible," Commander Carter breathed, watching the tactical display in stunned disbelief. "They're kinetic weapons, they're being absorbed. The Lumina field is not just converting energy, it's converting matter, it's rebuilding the ship." Another volley, this time a barrage of heavy torpedoes, struck the Odyssey Explorer. Again, no explosions. The missiles, designed to penetrate and detonate, simply vanished into the ship's glowing skin, their destructive potential dissolving into shimmering green-gold light. The Odyssey Explorer, far from being destroyed, seemed to expand, its contours growing more fluid, more alive. Its wounds were healing not by repair, but by active, organic regeneration fueled by the very attacks leveled against it. On the main view screen, the alien fleet hesitated. Their weapon readouts flickered wildly. Their commanders, visible on the split screen, wore expressions of utter bewilderment, then dawning horror. Ambassador Vex of the Hegemony Alliance, his four arms frozen mid-gesture, could only stare as his most potent weapons became fuel for the human ship. "They're not just failing to damage us, Captain," Lieutenant Kim said, a note of triumph in his voice. "They're strengthening us. Their every attack is making us more resilient. The Lumina vessel, it's been fully integrated. Its core essence, the wellspring, is now part of the Odyssey Explorer." The small, fragile Lumina vessel, once battered and dying, shimmered on its tethers, its hull now glowing with a vibrant, unblemished emerald light. It was no longer a dying ship, but a blossoming seed, re-anchored to a new living host. "They're breaking formation," Commander Carter announced, a wide, incredulous grin spreading across his face. The crystalline Confederacy cruisers are in full retreat. The merchant princes are veering off. They can't fight something that grows from their aggression. The hegemony dreadnoughts, stubbornly tenacious, made one last, desperate attempt. They opened fire with their colossal mass drivers, launching projectiles the size of small asteroids. But as the immense slugs approached the Odyssey Explorer, the ship's entire hull rippled with green-gold light. The projectiles did not just sink in, they seemed to be embraced, enveloped by the ship's living skin. For a moment, the Odyssey Explorer swelled visibly, like a deep-sea creature absorbing nutrient-rich plankton, before settling back into its new, slightly larger, more organically shaped form. The massive slugs were gone, assimilated, and their destructive momentum transformed into raw biological energy. "The truth beam, Captain," Eris Thorne's voice, now full of exhilaration, burst through the comms. "It's amplified. The entire ship is acting as a conduit. The Lumina's song is radiating across the entire quadrant. Billions will hear it. They will see it." Indeed, the Odyssey Explorer, now a living beacon of emerald and gold, pulsed with a rhythm that felt like a cosmic heartbeat. Its light cut through the nebula, piercing the very fabric of space. The truth beam, no longer just a focused signal, became a wave of pure living information, broadcast on every conceivable frequency, bypassing encryption, resonating directly with the biological and philosophical foundations of every species it touched. The galaxy watched. On countless worlds, on ships far distant, and in the halls of power, the image of the Odyssey Explorer transforming, regenerating, and flourishing under the very attacks meant to destroy it was broadcast. The Lumina's true nature, their ability to transmute destruction into growth, was no longer a theory or a whispered fable. It was undeniable, vivid, irrefutable truth. The accusations of parasitism and decay crumbled in the face of this living miracle. The hegemony dreadnoughts, faced with the impossible, finally disengaged. There was no victory for them here, only the unsettling realization that their power, their very methods of control, were not just futile but actively counterproductive against this new, strange, and terrifyingly resilient form of life. They retreated, their formidable forms fading back into the nebula, leaving behind a profound silence. The Odyssey Explorer, no longer battered and dying, pulsed with a vibrant, renewed life. Its hull gleamed with organic patterns, its conduits thrummed with a quiet, powerful energy. It was still a ship, but it was also something more. A living testament, a symbiotic extension of the Lumina's essence. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim said, his voice laced with awe. "All systems nominal, hull integrity at 200%, and the Lumina vessel is completely integrated. It's like it's part of us now. The wellspring is stable." Ava Rostova stood from her command chair, a deep breath filling her lungs. The Odyssey Explorer had passed through the crucible. It had become the safeguard, and in doing so, it changed everything. Weeks later, the Odyssey Explorer, now affectionately known as the Life-Bearer, emerged from the nebula, no longer hunted, but revered. Its journey back to human space was a triumphal procession. As the truth beam continued to propagate, amplified by the Life-Bearer's unique symbiotic core, the foundations of the galactic order crumbled. The stellar hegemony and the conglomerate of Zenith found themselves facing unprecedented scrutiny. Species long suppressed by their trade agreements and military might began to openly question the narratives they had been fed for centuries. The evidence of their technological theft from the Lumina, their systematic persecution, and their deliberate twisting of truth was now undeniable. The Lumina, far from being parasites, were revealed as expert bioengineers whose methods promised abundance and healing, not scarcity and control. On a newly terraformed human frontier colony world, once considered too barren for sustainable settlement, the first new Lumina colony took root. The Life-Bearer had settled into a geosynchronous orbit, its core essence, the wellspring, gently emanating its revitalizing energy onto the planet below. Within months, what had been a rocky, lifeless sphere blossomed into a vibrant, verdant world, teeming with new life, its ecosystems flourishing under the Lumina's gentle touch. It was a living demonstration, an irrefutable proof visible to every species in the quadrant. Elara, now visibly stronger, her form shimmering with a newfound vitality, stood beside Captain Ava Rostova on the bridge of the Life-Bearer. "Captain Rostova," she said, her melodic voice resonating with deep gratitude. "You saved us. Humanity, you are truly exceptional. You faced the entire galaxy's might for our sake." Ava smiled, looking out at the greening world below. "We just believed in the truth, Elara, and we refused to stand by when injustice flourishes. You weren't helpless. You were misunderstood. And we learned a great deal from you. Our strength isn't just in our ships or our weapons, but in our willingness to connect, to learn, to transform. Just like you." The old galactic order, built on fear and fabricated narratives, was dissolving. New alliances, born of shared truth and a desire for genuine cooperation, were beginning to form. Humanity, once the new and naive species, had become a catalyst, a living embodiment of the axiom that even the most outcast and seemingly helpless could, with courageous safeguard, spark a revolution of truth and life. The galaxy was not yet a perfect place, but it was, finally, a galaxy where truth had a chance to grow. The future was uncertain, full of challenges, but the path was clear, towards a shared, flourishing existence where the ultimate power was not control but connection. And the Life-Bearer, with its human crew and Lumina heart, was ready for whatever came next. What an incredible journey for Captain Ava Rostova and the Odyssey Explorer. Did this finale live up to your expectations? Let us know your favorite moment from this entire thrilling HFY series in the comments below. If you enjoy this epic conclusion, please hit that like button to show your support. And don't forget to subscribe for more original sci-fi stories that celebrate the best of humanity. Where in the galaxy are you watching from?